If you're watching this right now, phone glowing in a dark room, TV on mute, the city humming outside your window, listen to me closely. This is not random. You didn't stumble here by accident. Heaven itself interrupted your scroll tonight because the silence you've been carrying is about to break wide open. I know what's sitting on your nightstand right now. The pill bottles lined up like soldiers, the reading glasses you never thought you'd need, maybe a photo of someone who's gone, or worse, someone who's still here but feels 1,000 miles away. Your kids grew up and moved on. Your spouse is either asleep next to you or buried 6 feet under. And somewhere deep in your chest, there's a question you don't ask out loud. Will I die and nobody will notice? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you. God has been silent in your life. Not distant, not absent, silent. And tonight, that silence shatters. You see, New York never sleeps. Sirens wail, the subway rumbles, life keeps moving. But in your apartment, in your 4 walls, it's been quiet. Too quiet. You've prayed yourself hoarse. You've cried until your pillow knew your name. You've asked God, "Where are you?" and heard nothing but the hum of the refrigerator. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Heaven has been holding a sealed envelope with your name on it. And tonight, not tomorrow, not next week, tonight, that seal breaks. In just a few minutes, I'm going to tell you the one specific reason God had to stay quiet when you begged him to speak. When you hear it, some of you are going to exhale for the first time in years. You're going to understand why the wait was this long, why the pain cut this deep, why the silence felt so suffocating. This isn't a sermon. This is a divine appointment. You and heaven, face to face, no more delays. So here's what I need you to do right now. Don't just watch this like background noise. If this feels like your word, if your spirit is already stirring, type in the comments, "I'm listening, God." That's not just a comment. That's your act of faith. That's you telling heaven, "I'm here, I'm ready." Break the silence. Because, chosen one, the silence is over. And what comes next will rewrite everything you thought you knew. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself right now. When was the last time you prayed and actually felt like someone was listening? Not just going through the motions, not reciting words you memorized 50 years ago. I mean really prayed, poured your heart out and felt God lean in close. For most of you, it's been years, maybe decades. You've been sitting in that same pew every Sunday morning, same seat, 3rd row from the back, right side. You watch everyone around you lift their hands, tears streaming down their faces, saying, "I feel the presence of God." And you? You feel nothing. Just the creak of the wooden bench and the weight of your own doubt pressing down on your chest. You go home, you kneel by your bed, the same way your mama taught you when you were 7 years old, and you whisper into the dark, "Lord, are you still there?" And all you hear back is the hum of the radiator and the distant wail of sirens 14 floors below. Let's call it what it is. You've been in a silent season so long, you've started to believe it's permanent. You look back at your 20s when everything felt possible, your 30s when you had fire in your belly and a future stretched out like an open highway, your 40s when you still believed the best was yet to come, and now here you are, 65, 70, 75, staring at pill bottles on your nightstand, and you're terrified that you've already played your last good hand, that God used you up and moved on to someone younger, sharper, more useful. The devil whispers it to you every single night. You're too old, you're too tired, you're too broken. God's done with you. And the worst part? You're starting to believe him. You've tried everything. You've fasted, you've given, you've served, you've confessed every sin you can remember, and a few you're not even sure you committed. And still, silence. The kind of silence that makes you wonder if you're praying to an empty sky. David knew this feeling. The greatest king Israel ever had, the man after God's own heart, cried out in Psalm 13, "How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" David wasn't whispering that in private. He wrote it down. He sang it. Because the pain of divine silence is so unbearable, you have to let it out or it will kill you from the inside. And in Psalm 22, he screams, my God, why have you forsaken me? I cry out by day, but you do not answer." You see that? Even the man God loved most felt abandoned. Even he thought God had turned his back. So if you've been lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, whispering, "Did I miss you, God? Did I mess up too much? Am I too far gone?" Let me tell you something. You are in the company of kings and prophets. You are not crazy. You are not abandoned. And you sure as hell are not forgotten. But here's where it gets dangerous. Here's where the enemy moves in for the kill. Because after enough years of silence, you start drawing conclusions. Deadly conclusions. You start thinking, maybe God's done with me. Maybe I've outlived my purpose. Maybe I'm just taking up space now, waiting to die. And that lie, chosen one, that lie is straight from the pit of hell. You've been holding an old phone with no signal, dialing heaven over and over, hearing nothing but static, and you've convinced yourself the line is dead. But what if I told you the line was never dead? What if I told you that in your silent years, those long, agonizing, brutal years when you heard nothing, God was actually the most active he's ever been in your life? What if the silence wasn't abandonment? What if it was strategy? I'm going to prove it to you. In just a few minutes, I'm going to show you 2 undeniable signs that confirm God was working behind the scenes, even when you couldn't hear him, even when you couldn't feel him, even when you thought he'd walked away for good. But first, I need you to do something. If you've ever whispered in the dark, "God, do you still see me?" If you've ever wondered if you're invisible to heaven, I need you to type 4 words in the comments right now. He sees me. Don't skip this. This is your moment. This is you telling the enemy, I'm still here. I'm still fighting. And I refuse to believe the lie that God is done with me. Type it. He sees me. Because what I'm about to reveal next is going to shatter every doubt you've been carrying, and you need to be ready to receive it. Let me tell you something the enemy has been whispering in your ear for years now. Maybe you've heard it so many times you started believing it. Maybe it's become the background noise of your life, so constant you don't even notice it anymore. But tonight, we're dragging that lie out of the shadows and exposing it for what it really is. The lie sounds like this: you're forgotten, you're outdated, God's moved on to the next generation, your season is over, you're too old, too tired, too late. Some of you just felt that hit your chest like a punch, didn't you? Because that's exactly what you've been thinking while you watch younger believers step into ministry, into calling, into the things you once dreamed about. You see them on stages, on platforms, in the spotlight, and something inside you whispers, that could have been me, but I missed my chance. Let me be brutally honest with you. That voice? That's not wisdom. That's not reality. That's not even you. That's a demon assigned specifically to aging believers, and his only job is to convince you that your story ended chapters ago. Hell is terrified of older believers. You want to know why? Because you've survived what killed others. You've endured decades of storms that would have drowned the next generation in week 1. You carry wisdom that can't be downloaded, strength that can't be faked, and faith that's been tested in fires these young folks have only read about. So the enemy does the only thing he can do. He whispers, you're a used-up book on a dusty shelf. Nobody's reaching for you anymore. But here's what heaven sees. A story so rich, so deep, so battle-tested, that when God reaches for it again, the world won't know what hit them. You think Abraham and Sarah felt useful at 90? You think they woke up full of purpose when their bodies ached and their friends were dying off? Genesis 18 tells us, Sarah actually laughed when God said she'd bear a son. Not because she had faith, because the promise sounded absurd at her age. But God wasn't asking her permission. He was announcing his plan. And Isaac came anyway. Moses was 80 years old, herding sheep in the desert, when God showed up in a burning bush. 80. Not 25 with a fresh degree and a 5-year plan. 80 with a limp, a past full of failure, and every reason to say, God, you got the wrong guy. But Exodus 3 makes it clear God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And age has never disqualified anyone from a divine assignment. Listen to me closely. Your age is not a disqualification, it's a weapon. Because while the world worships youth, heaven values endurance. While culture chases trends, God honors faithfulness. And the very thing the enemy is using to shame you, your years, your scars, your slower pace, is exactly what makes you dangerous in the kingdom. You're like an old vinyl record in a world obsessed with digital streaming. The world looks at you and says, outdated, obsolete, can't keep up. But when the needle drops on that vinyl, it carries a depth, a warmth, a soul that no algorithm can replicate. Your story has texture, your faith has weight, your prayers carry authority earned through decades of holding on when letting go seemed easier. So why has hell been working overtime to convince you you're finished? Because if you ever wake up to the truth that God is not done with you, that your best chapters might still be unwritten, that your latter days could eclipse anything you've seen before, you will become unstoppable. Some of you have been sitting in silence for so long, you've started planning your own funeral. You've written yourself off. You've surrendered to the lie that your purpose died when your spouse did, or when your health declined, or when your kids stopped calling. But let me tell you what's really happening. God has been silent, not because he forgot you. God has been silent because he's been waiting for the noise to die down, waiting for the distractions to fade, waiting for you to stop looking for approval from a world that doesn't understand your value. Because what he's about to release in you doesn't need an audience. It needs obedience. You want to know why your age is a weapon? I'm going to show you in the next section exactly why hell fears the faith of an older believer more than the passion of a younger one. And when you hear it, you're going to realize that everything the enemy tried to steal from you, your confidence, your purpose, your voice, he was stealing it preemptively, because he knew what was coming. But before we go there, I need to know you're still with me. If the world, the church, or even your own mind ever made you feel too old for God to use, type this in the comments right now. My story isn't over. Don't just think it, declare it, because your declaration is the first crack in the enemy's lie. And once that lie breaks, chosen one, there's no telling what God is about to do through you. Let me take you somewhere most preachers won't go. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this with me. There's a place in heaven most believers never talk about. It's not the throne room. It's not the streets of gold. It's quieter than that, deeper than that. It's the archives, row after row of shelves stretching into eternity. And on those shelves sit files, millions of them, billions, each one bound, each one labeled, each one containing a life, a story, a journey that only God fully knows. And somewhere in that vast, holy library, there is a file with your name on it. Not your maiden name, not the name your parents gave you hoping you'd amount to something. Your true name, the one God whispered over you before you ever took your first breath. The name hell tried to erase. The name the world never fully understood. That file has been sitting there, sealed tight, marked with red letters across the front. For an appointed time, chosen one. Tonight is that time. God is breaking the seal, not to shame you, not to expose your failures, but to reveal the true value of every single thing you walked through when nobody was watching. Because what's written inside that file would make angels weep and demons tremble. You want to know what's in there? Let me tell you. Every tear you cried at 3 a.m, when your body ached and sleep wouldn't come, God bottled it. Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. Not one tear hit your pillow without heaven taking note. Not one. Every prayer you whispered over your children when they were breaking your heart, it's written there. The nights you sat at the kitchen table with your head in your hands, begging God to save them, protect them, bring them home. You thought those prayers bounced off the ceiling. They didn't. They were filed, catalogued, stored with the kind of precision only eternity can hold. Every time you forgave when it almost killed you, inside documented. That betrayal from your best friend, that abandonment by your spouse, that rejection from your own kids. You forgave because something in you refused to become bitter, and heaven marked it down as an act of warfare that shook the gates of hell. But here's what breaks my heart. You don't know what's in that file because the enemy has spent your entire life trying to convince you it's empty. He whispered that your life didn't matter, that your pain was pointless, that your prayers went nowhere, that you were forgotten, overlooked, left behind by a God who moved on without you. That's a lie straight from the pit. Daniel 12:4 says, "But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end." There are truths about your life that have been sealed, not because they were insignificant, but because they were too powerful to release until the right moment, until you were ready, until the enemy's grip was weak enough that the truth could finally break through and set you free. And tonight, that seal is breaking. Think of it like this. You know how the government keeps classified documents locked away for decades. Information too sensitive, too explosive to release to the public until the right time comes. That's what's been happening in heaven with your story. There's a file marked Top Secret, Heaven's Eyes, only with your name across the front, and inside it is the truth about why you suffered the way you did, why the wait was so long, why the silence felt so suffocating. It's like pulling an old diary out of a shoebox in the back of your closet. You forgot it was there. But when you open it and start reading, you realize every page was leading somewhere. Every heartbreak had a purpose. Every loss was setting up a comeback you couldn't see at the time. God has been writing your story with an ink that only reveals itself under the light of the right season. And chosen one, this is that season. In just a few minutes, I'm going to tell you the one line written over your life in heaven that hell does not want you to hear. One sentence, one divine declaration that will make everything, every year of waiting, every night of weeping, every moment of doubt, make perfect sense. But I need you to hear me clearly. Don't you dare click away before that line is spoken. You've waited years for this. Some of you have waited decades. You've carried questions so long they've become part of your identity. You've lived with silence so heavy it pressed the breath out of your lungs. But tonight, the silence breaks. Tonight, the file opens. Tonight, you find out what heaven has been holding back until you were strong enough to handle it. So, stay with me. Because what comes next isn't just information, it's revelation. And when you hear it, something inside you that's been asleep for years is going to wake up and roar. You want to know the truth? The real reason God went silent in your life? It wasn't because he stopped caring. It wasn't because your prayers bounced off the ceiling. It wasn't because you did something so terrible that heaven turned its back on you. God went silent because if he told you what was coming, you would have run. Let me say that again, slower, so it sinks all the way in. God stayed quiet because the truth would have sent you into a panic. You would have fought him. You would have sabotaged the very thing he was protecting you from. Think about it. That relationship that fell apart with no explanation, the one that left you confused, angry, asking God why he didn't intervene. You prayed for that person, you fasted, you believed, and then it just ended. No closure, no divine intervention, just silence. What if I told you God saw what you couldn't? What if that person was leading you toward a cliff, and instead of explaining it because you were too in love to listen, he just removed them? What if the silence wasn't rejection, but rescue? Or maybe it was the job. You worked there for years, you were loyal, you showed up, and then one day, without warning, it was over. You sat at your kitchen table, staring at the severance papers, asking God, "Why didn't you stop this? Why didn't you warn me?" But what if God knew that if you stayed one more year, the stress would have killed you? What if he saw the heart attack coming, the stroke brewing, the breakdown building? What if he ended it before it ended you? And maybe it was the house. You found the perfect place, perfect neighborhood, perfect price. You prayed over it, you claimed it, and someone else got it. You were devastated, you felt forgotten. But what if that street flooded 2 years later? What if that school district collapsed? What if moving there would have isolated you from the very people God was sending to sustain you in your final years? You see, we think God's silence means he's not listening, but sometimes God's silence means he's moving pieces on a chessboard we can't even see yet. Look at Joseph. Sold into slavery by his own brothers, thrown into prison for a crime he didn't commit. Years of silence, no angels, no visions, no explanation, just chains and confusion. But later, Joseph stood before those same brothers and said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." Genesis 50-20. Every betrayal, every dungeon, every silent night was rerouting him toward a throne. God didn't explain it in the pit because Joseph would have given up. God didn't explain it in the prison because Joseph would have lost his mind. The silence was mercy. Even Jesus understood this. When he stood before Pilate, accused, mocked, spit on, he said nothing. Matthew 27-14 says, "He gave no answer, not because he couldn't defend himself, but because his silence was part of the plan. If he had spoken, the soldiers might have released him. And if they released him, the cross wouldn't have happened. And if the cross didn't happen, you and I wouldn't have salvation. His silence saved the world." Let me give you a picture. When a surgeon operates, the patient is put under anesthesia. They hear nothing, they feel nothing, they're completely unaware of what's happening. But that's when the most critical, life-saving work is being done. The patient isn't abandoned, the patient is being saved. And that's what God has been doing in your life. You thought heaven abandoned you. In reality, heaven put you under divine anesthesia so God could operate on your life without your fear fighting him. Because if he told you he was removing that person, you would have clung tighter. If he told you he was closing that door, you would have kicked it open. If he told you he was rerouting your entire path, you would have dug your heels into the ground and refused to move. So he stayed silent. Not because he didn't love you, but because he loved you too much to let you destroy what he was building. And now, right now, the anesthesia is wearing off. You're waking up, and for the first time, you can see the stitches. You can see what he removed. You can see what he repaired. You can see why the silence had to be that long, that deep, that unbearable. God wasn't ignoring you. God was saving you. So here's my question. Can you trust him now? Can you look back at the silent seasons and say, "God, you knew what I couldn't see. You protected me when I thought you abandoned me. And I'm still here because you never let go. If that just broke something open inside you, if you finally understand why the silence had to be, I need you to do something. Type this in the comments right now. Do what you must, Lord. That's not just a comment. That's you giving God permission to finish what he started. That's you surrendering to the surgery. That's you trusting that the silence was never the end. It was the setup for something greater than you ever imagined. Because chosen one, the silence is breaking. And what comes next will prove that every quiet night was worth it. Now let me tell you something that's going to turn your entire understanding upside down. Every delay you've suffered through, every detour that made no sense, every door that slammed so hard it rattled your faith, none of it was random, none of it was punishment. And chosen one, none of it was God forgetting about you. You've been living under a lie. The enemy whispered it so many times you started believing it. You're too late. You missed your window. God moved on without you. But tonight, that lie dies. Let me break this down for you, step by step, like we're sitting across from each other at a diner on 42nd Street at 2 a.m., and I'm about to show you the map you've been reading upside down your whole life. First, the delays. You remember those years, don't you? The job that took 15 years longer than you planned. The marriage that came late or never came at all. The healing you prayed for that didn't show up when your body was young and strong. You sat in that waiting room called life, watching the clock, feeling every tick like a hammer blow to your hope. But here's what you didn't see. God wasn't making you wait because he was cruel. He was making you wait because the blessing you were asking for required a version of you that didn't exist yet. You weren't ready. Not because you were worthless, because you were being prepared for something so massive that if it had come early, it would have destroyed you. Look at the Israelites. 40 years in the wilderness for what should have been an 11-day journey. 40 years. Some of them died never seeing the promised land. But here's the truth. The wilderness wasn't the punishment. The wilderness was the school. God had to strip away their slave mentality before he could trust them with a nation. The delay wasn't denial, it was development. And you sitting there right now, feeling like you wasted decades you weren't wasting. You were being forged. Every hard year hammered something weak out of you and built something unshakable in its place. Second, the detours. Now let's talk about the places you never planned to be. The job you took just to survive. The neighborhood you moved to when money got tight. The relationship you ended up in that wasn't in any of your dreams. You call them detours. God calls them divine reroutes. You ever been on the subway when they announce track work and suddenly your train's taking a different path? You're frustrated, you're confused. But the conductor knows something you don't. If that train had stayed on the original track, it would have crashed. The detour saved your life. That's what God did with you. He moved you off the track you thought was right because he saw the wreck coming. That job you lost, it was killing your spirit. That relationship that ended, it was stealing your destiny. That move you hated, it positioned you exactly where you needed to be for the next chapter. You think you're off course. God says you're right on time. Third, the denials. This is the hardest one. The doors that didn't just close, they slammed. The promotion you deserved but never got. The reconciliation you begged for that never happened. The healing you fasted for that didn't come. You stood there knocking, pleading, crying, and heaven seemed to lock the door tighter. But listen to me. Every no from God is protection. Every closed door is a guarded entrance. He wasn't keeping you out of blessing. He was keeping you out of disaster. Remember Lazarus? Mary and Martha sent word to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." They expected him to come running, but Jesus stayed where he was. 2 more days, and Lazarus died. The sisters were devastated. "If you had been here, our brother wouldn't have died." But Jesus had a bigger plan. He didn't come to heal sickness. He came to demonstrate resurrection. God denied their small request because he was preparing an impossible miracle. And chosen one, that's exactly what he's been doing with you. You asked for healing. He's preparing resurrection. You asked for a paycheck. He's preparing wealth. You asked for companionship. He's preparing destiny partnership. The denial wasn't rejection. It was redirection towards something greater than you could have imagined. Now, here's where this gets personal. You're older now. You look at your life and see delays, detours, and denials, and you think it's too late. But I'm about to tell you something that's going to shock you. God doesn't waste time. He redeems it. And right now, in this season of your life, he's about to accelerate everything that felt slow. Late life breakthrough is real, and it's about to hit your household with such force that even your own family won't recognize the shift. In the next few minutes, I'm going to give you 3 undeniable signs that your delays have actually positioned you for an acceleration so sudden, so powerful, that it will make up for every lost year in a matter of months. But before we go there, I need to know you're still with me. If your life has felt like one endless reroute, if you've been delayed, detoured, and denied until you almost gave up, type right now, God, I'm still on board. Because chosen one, the train is about to leave the station. And this time, you're not getting off until you reach the destination heaven wrote for you before you were born. You know what kills me? What absolutely breaks my heart? It's the number of you sitting there right now who think God sidelined you because you weren't good enough. You think the silence meant rejection. You think the closed doors meant disqualification. You think the years that passed while others got promoted, while others got healed, while others got their miracles, you think that meant God forgot about you. Let me tell you something that's going to shake the foundation of every lie you've believed. You weren't benched. You were being trained off stage for a final act that requires a different kind of strength. Listen to me. Broadway doesn't put their understudies on the main stage during rehearsals. They keep them in the back, in the shadows, learning every move, every line, every breath of the lead role. Why? Because when the spotlight finally hits them, they don't have time to figure it out. They have to be ready, fully prepared, completely equipped. That's what God has been doing with you. You thought the silence was punishment. God calls it preparation. You thought the waiting was wasted time. Heaven calls it training season. You thought you were forgotten in the back room, but God was whispering, "Not yet, not yet. I'm making you ready for something they can't handle." And I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're sitting there with 50, 60, 70 years behind you, and you're thinking, "But Pastor, I messed up too many times. I made too many mistakes when I was young. I wasted my best years." Stop right there. God did not waste your failures. He baked them into your wisdom. Every wrong turn taught you which way not to go. Every broken relationship taught you what real love looks like. Every financial collapse taught you that God, not money, is your source. You think those were detours? No, those were classrooms. And you graduated with honors you don't even recognize yet. David wasn't anointed king and immediately given a throne. He went back to the sheep, back to the fields, back to the caves. He fought lions and bears when nobody was watching. He wrote psalms in the dark when nobody was listening. And when Goliath stepped onto that battlefield, David wasn't surprised by the giant. He was ready for him. Because every silent season had been building toward that one moment. Your giant is coming. And you're ready. You're still here after losses that should have destroyed you. You buried people you thought you couldn't live without, and yet your heart still beats. You sat in hospital rooms with test results that looked like death sentences, and yet you're still breathing. You survived betrayals that cut so deep you didn't think you'd ever trust again. And yet here you are, watching this message, still seeking God. That's not small, that's not lucky, that's evidence. Evidence that you are a survivor God can trust with what comes next. Look at Simeon and Anna in Luke chapter 2. They were old, ancient. Most people would have written them off. Their time has passed, the world said. But God had reserved them for one specific moment to see the Christ child with their own eyes. They waited decades in the temple, praying, fasting, believing, while everyone around them moved on with life. But when Jesus showed up, they were the ones standing there, ready, prepared, positioned. God doesn't bring you this far to waste you at the finish line. You want to know what's written in heaven's file over your life? I'll tell you exactly what it says. Not disqualified, not too late, not damaged goods. It says this: strategically reserved. Let that sink in. You were strategically reserved, held back on purpose, kept in the shadows intentionally, delayed by divine design. Because what God is about to release through you requires someone who's been through the fire and came out refined. Someone who's been broken and knows how to rely on God alone. Someone who's been silent long enough to hear his voice clearly. The enemy tried to convince you that you were forgotten, but the truth hell can no longer hide is this: you weren't overlooked, you were protected, you weren't passed over, you were preserved, you weren't abandoned, you were appointed for such a time as this. Your age is not your disqualification, it's your diploma. Your scars are not shame, they're your credentials. Your losses are not evidence of failure. They're proof you know how to survive what would kill most people. And now, right now, tonight the silence breaks, the waiting ends, the preparation period closes, and the unveiling begins. If that word is yours, if your spirit is bearing witness right now, I need you to do something. Type in the comments, strategically reserved, and say it out loud where you are. Say it in your kitchen. Say it in your bedroom. Say it until the walls hear it, until the enemy hears it, until you believe it. Because chosen one, God is about to prove that what he preserved, he will now present. And the world is about to see why you had to wait this long. Now listen to me closely, because what I'm about to tell you is not optional. This is not spiritual decoration. This is divine instruction for the season you're stepping into right now. You've heard the silence break. You've felt something shift in your spirit while watching this. But revelation without action is just religious entertainment. And God didn't interrupt your night for entertainment. He interrupted it for transformation. So here's what heaven is requiring of you tonight, not next week, not when you feel ready tonight. 3 clear assignments that will determine whether you step into this new chapter or stay stuck in the old one. First, stop cursing your age. You've been doing it for years and didn't even realize it. Every time you say, "I'm too old for this," you're prophesying against yourself. Every time you joke, "My body's falling apart," you're agreeing with death instead of life. Every time you dismiss a dream because of the number on your driver's license, you're calling God a liar. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, not in the power of your circumstances, not in the power of your doctor's report, in the power of your tongue." The same mouth that's been rehearsing decline needs to start declaring life. Right now, today, this moment. Stop saying, "My best years are behind me." Start saying, "God is restoring the years the locusts have eaten." That's Joel 2:25, and it's not poetry, it's prophecy over your life. Your age is not your disqualification, it's your credential. You've survived what would have killed weaker people. Your gray hair is not shame, it's a crown of glory. Proverbs 16:31 confirms it. So tonight, before you close your eyes, I want you to speak life over your body, out loud. Tell your bones they will carry you into your assignments. Tell your mind it will stay sharp and clear. Tell your heart it will beat strong for every day God has ordained. Stop partnering with the enemy's narrative and start speaking heaven's script. Second, open your mouth again. Some of you stopped praying bold prayers years ago. You got tired of asking. You got tired of waiting. You got tired of believing. So you shrunk your prayers down to, God, just help me make it through another day. But that kind of praying keeps you alive. It doesn't make you dangerous. And God needs you dangerous right now. He needs you praying with authority again. He needs you blessing your family out loud, even if they're not listening. He needs you declaring breakthrough over your neighborhood, over your city, over this nation. You think because you're older, your prayers don't matter anymore. Let me remind you of something. Anna was 84 years old when she met baby Jesus in the temple. Luke 2:36-38 says she never left, but worshipped night and day with fasting and prayer. And when the Messiah showed up, she was the one who recognized him and started prophesying over him. Your prayers right now carry more weight than they ever have, because they're soaked in decades of faithfulness. Stop whispering when you should be declaring. Stop doubting when you should be commanding. Isaiah 40:31 promises, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles." You're not winding down, you're mounting up. So here's what I'm asking. Start praying bold again. Pray for the impossible. Pray for your grandchildren's salvation. Pray for America. Pray for revival. Stop playing it safe with God. Third, make room for new assignments. God is about to use you in ways you never imagined. Maybe it's joining an online prayer group and becoming a warrior others lean on. Maybe it's mentoring a younger believer who's drowning in this culture. Maybe it's writing your story down so your family knows what God brought you through. Maybe it's as simple as calling one person every week who's alone, just to remind them they're not forgotten. You've been thinking your ministry days are over, but God is saying, I'm just getting started with you. The enemy wanted you to retire from your calling, but heaven is reactivating you for kingdom impact. Don't dismiss the stirring you're feeling right now as nostalgia. That's not memory, that's momentum. God is repositioning you. And when God repositions someone, He doesn't do it for decoration. He does it for deployment. So tonight, I need you to take one simple step. Maybe it's forgiving someone whose name just flashed through your mind. Maybe it's throwing out an object in your home that's tied to shame or regret. Maybe it's writing a letter you'll never send, just to release the pain you've been carrying for 20 years. One step. That's all heaven is asking for. Because when you move, God moves. When you obey in the small thing, He releases the big thing. And here's what I want you to understand. This isn't about earning God's favor. You already have it. This is about positioning yourself to receive what He's been holding in reserve until the appointed time. And the appointed time is now. So let me ask you directly, what is the one thing God just whispered to your heart? Don't ignore it. Don't rationalize it away. That stirring is the Holy Spirit giving you your marching orders. Because in just a moment, we're going to pray a prayer together that will mark this date in heaven's calendar as the night the silence broke over your life. But before we do, I need you to do something. What is God asking you to release tonight? Now listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to ask you to do is going to shift the atmosphere in your room right now. You are not alone in this moment. Across this city, across this nation, there are thousands of us gray-haired warriors, silver-crowned survivors watching this at the exact same time. And heaven is about to do something it only does when the remnant gathers. I need you to do something physical. Stop multitasking. Put down whatever's in your hand. If you can, place your right hand over your heart. If your arthritis won't let you, just touch your chest. Feel that heartbeat? That's not coincidence. That's proof you're still in the fight. That heartbeat is God's drumbeat saying, not yet, not finished, not even close. Now, I want you to look at your screen. Touch it if you can. This is your altar tonight. This glowing rectangle in your hand is your point of contact between earth and heaven. And right now, in this moment, we are going to do what the early church did in the book of Acts. We are going to answer God together. First, we confess. Say this out loud if you're alone. Whisper it if someone's sleeping next to you. But say it, God, I believed the lie. I believed you forgot me. I believed I was too old, too tired, too late. I believed the silence meant you moved on. Did you say it? Good, because that lie just lost its power. You just dragged it into the light. And lies die in the light. Now we renounce. This is where you take authority. The Bible says in James 4-7, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. So right now, we resist. Say this with me. I reject every word spoken over me that said I was done, every voice that said, too old, too broken, too forgotten. I renounce it in Jesus' name. That is not my story. That is not my ending. Feel that? That's not emotion. That's authority rising in your spirit. That's the anointing that breaks yokes. And right now, yokes are snapping in living rooms from Brooklyn to the Bronx, from Harlem to Staten Island. Now comes the declaration. This is where we prophesy over ourselves. God told Ezekiel to prophesy to dry bones, and they stood up as an army. Right now, you are going to prophesy to your own life. Say this like you mean it. My age is not a curse. It's a weapon in God's hand. God has not retired me. He has reserved me. The silence over my life is broken tonight, in Jesus' name. Do you hear what you just said? You didn't beg. You didn't plead. You declared. There's a difference. Begging is what you do when you're not sure God hears you. Declaring is what you do when you know He already answered. Now, I'm going to take you to the climax of this moment, and I need every ounce of your focus. The enemy has spent years whispering 3 lies to you. Tonight, we demolish all 3. Say this after me, and say it like you're staring hell in the face. I am not abandoned. Say it again, louder this time if you can. I am not forgotten. One more time. Let the walls hear it. I am not finished. Did you feel that shift? That wasn't just words. That was a seismic shift in the spirit realm. Somewhere right now, a demon just lost his assignment over your life. Somewhere right now, an angel just got dispatched with your breakthrough. Somewhere right now, God leaned forward on his throne and said, finally, my child just woke up. Now here's what I need you to do, and this is critical. I want you to go to the comments right now, yes, right now, while the anointing is still heavy, and I want you to write one declaration about your next chapter. Not what you hope might happen, not what you're afraid to believe, but what you are declaring by faith. Maybe it's, at 68, I'm just getting started. Maybe it's, at 72, my best chapter is ahead of me. Maybe it's, at 80, God is not done writing my story. Whatever it is, write it. Let your own words prophesy over you. Let your faith become visible. Let this comment section become a digital altar where thousands of us stand together and say, we are the remnant. We are the ones who refuse to die quiet. We are the generation that will not go gentle into that good night. Because here's what you need to understand. As we move forward, this breakthrough you just experienced is not the end, it's the beginning. But now comes the question, what is God about to say now that He finally has your full attention? Look at how far you've traveled tonight. When you pressed play, you were sitting in silence, thick, suffocating silence that had wrapped itself around your life like a fog over the Hudson River. You've been carrying questions nobody around you could answer. You've been wrestling with doubts nobody in your family could see. And somewhere deep inside, you wondered if God had turned his back on you for good. But tonight, chosen one, you didn't just watch a video. You walked through a divine unveiling, from silence to truth exposed, from confusion to clarity given, from whispers of doubt to declarations of faith. This wasn't entertainment. This was intervention. Heaven broke protocol to reach you right where you are, in your living room, in your bedroom, in the quiet hours when the city sleeps, but your mind won't. Let me tell you something you need to carry forward. You will remember this night. The next time the enemy slithers into your thoughts and whispers, "You're forgotten," you'll have an answer. You'll say, "No, I was there the night God broke the silence. I heard the truth. I know why he waited, and I'm still standing." This is your line in the sand. Before tonight and after tonight, two different seasons, two different versions of you. The one who wondered if God still cared, and the one who knows beyond doubt that heaven has been working behind the scenes every single day. Now I want to pray over you. Not a casual prayer, not a religious formality, a blessing tailored for exactly who you are and where you are right now. Father, I lift up every person still watching, every soul who made it to this moment. You see them. You know the medication they take each morning. You know the ache in their joints when the weather changes. You know the bills stacked on the kitchen counter, the fixed income that never seems to stretch far enough. Lord, breathe provision into their finances. Let unexpected checks arrive. Let debts cancel themselves. Let their needs be met not by luck, but by your deliberate hand. God, I pray over their sleep tonight. No more tossing, no more 3 a.m. panic attacks. No more lying awake replaying regrets. Let them sleep like children again, wrapped in your peace that passes all understanding. Philippians 4:7 says, "Your peace guards hearts and minds, so guard theirs tonight." Let their bodies rest. Let their minds quiet. Let their spirits finally exhale. And Father, I pray over their children and grandchildren. Some of them are far from you. Some of them have walked away from the faith. Some of them don't call as much as they should. But God, you are still the God who restores. Bring them back. Soften their hearts. Let this generation see a move of your Spirit before it's too late. Joel 2:28 promised, "You would pour out your Spirit on all flesh, sons and daughters, old and young." Let that promise hit their family like lightning. Let prodigals come home. Lord, I declare over every viewer, their chapter is not ending, it is turning. The author is still writing. And what comes next will silence every lie the enemy ever told them. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Chosen one, you're still here. That means something. Most people would have scrolled away by now, but you stayed because your spirit recognized truth when it heard it. So let me ask you to do something simple but powerful. Whisper out loud right where you are. Thank you for breaking the silence, Lord. Say it. Let your voice carry that gratitude into the atmosphere. Let heaven hear you respond. And if you want more messages like this, messages that speak to the real struggles of this season, messages that don't sugarcoat the pain, but don't leave you in despair, either hit that subscribe button, tap the bell, stay connected, because you're not walking this road alone. There's a whole community of chosen ones right here who understand what you're going through. We're not just viewers, we're family. Now scroll down into the comments. Look at the declarations people are making. If you see someone's testimony that touches you, like it. Reply with, "I agree for you." Let's be a real community, not just strangers passing by. When one of us rises, we all rise. When one of us declares victory, we all stand in agreement. Here's what I need you to understand as we close. Heaven hasn't been quiet because it forgot you. Heaven has been quiet because your chapter was still being written. God doesn't speak prematurely. He doesn't interrupt his own process. He waited until the ink was dry, until the plan was set, until the appointed time arrived. And tonight, the author spoke up. The truth can no longer be hidden. You are chosen. You are seen. You are loved beyond measure. And the silence you endured was never abandonment. It was preparation for the sound of heaven breaking through. Go forward in peace, chosen one. The dawn is coming over this city, slow but sure. And when the sun rises tomorrow, you'll rise with it, different, stronger, and finally free from the weight of wondering if God still cares. He does. He always has. And tonight, he made sure you knew it.